Hello everyone, in this video we will be making a classic satchel inspired by vintage camera cases to give it this elegant shape. We will be making this bag today step by step, looking at what's inside your kit and a step by step of how to complete each part. So this is the bag we will be making today, and inside your kit you will have the code, the QR code that led you here today or from the website, and inside you will have your top quality leather from a sustainable tannery in the Netherlands. Most of this bag is one piece. However, you will find inside your free dust bag, which you can use to pop your bag inside and keep it protected when it's complete, or you can keep all your parts inside your dust bag as you're working on your craft project. So inside, just slid inside the bucket bag, is the other two leather parts you will need later on to make your strap. We don't need them until the very end, so just pop them to one side for now. You will also have all your tools and hardware sandwiched in between, just to protect the leather so nothing gets scratched. You'll have your pliers, which you'll use to add your hardware to this bag and your locks, and you can keep these and use them for future craft projects. You will have 2 bags of screws. These are top quality Chicago screws used for quality leather detailing in designer leather goods and high-end leather goods. You have the female part, which is the polished either chrome plated silver part or brass, depending on which option you've gone for. And this is the finished side that you want to see on your product. And you have the corresponding screws, and I always add a couple of extra in each bag just in case one of them pings off your table or goes in between the floorboards. You know, they're very easy to lose, so you've got a few extra in there, so don't worry about losing them. If you lose one, just carry on. You'll have enough. You have a couple of spares in each bag. In one bag you'll have your roller buckle and what's called a keeper, which we'll use for your strap later, so we can pop that with our strap for later on. And we have lots of locks and hardware in one bag. This is the bag we will start with, and these are the techniques that we're going to go over first. So you can put your screws to one side, you can put your pliers to one side, we don't need them right now. And these are the bits we're going to use. And you can put your dust bag to one side for later on. So let's zoom in on this bag and let's see what we have. This satchel has 2 locks, so you'll have 2 of everything. So you'll have 2 of these clips. They will be added on the edge of the flap, and I'll show you where that is later on. You may have opted for some customization on your bag as well, so you'll also find that embossed onto the leather if that's an option you chose. So this was somebody who chose their initials DTB. So these are the ones that we're going to start with to begin with, and these also have these corresponding parts. They're like prongs and they're finished on one side, very sharp on the other, so be careful. The other parts that we'll move on to in the next step are these 2, which are part of the locks, and these are the backs for those locks. So keep these to one side nearby, we're going to use them next. But for now, you just need to focus on these parts, and we'll use our trusty pliers as well. So for these parts, these correspond with these 4 holes. So you'll notice you have 2 holes there and 2 holes here. Now when you get these clips, they are manufactured open to accommodate lots of layers or thicknesses of material. So what we need to do, our leather by standard is normally between 2.6 to 2.8 millimeters. So we have it manufactured in a particular thickness, ideal for these types of products. So by hand, we just need to close them over slightly, just so they fit snugly and they grip onto the edge of the leather, and so they don't come off. You should be able to pull them off, but they shouldn't fall off if you hold the leather up. So we do that for both sides. Squeeze the lock closed, just enough so they don't fall off. We are working on the right side of the leather, so these clips that you can push in should be on the right side of the leather. The wrong side is the other side that's finished. The leather we use is from a sustainable tannery in the Netherlands, and it's a resin-backed leather. It's a gold-rated tannery for sustainability and for the way they treat the tanning process and the chemical process, so no chemicals get released from this factory. So it's a very environmentally sound tannery that has been awarded a gold star rating from the auditing bodies within the leather trade. So, and we only source our leather within the EU, so you're getting top quality materials that are going to last a long time. So the wrong side of the leather has a resin-backed finish, so it's also finished on this side. It will probably be either black or tan, which is the standard colour of the other side of the leather, depending on the colour of the right side. So from the right side, we can now pop our prongs through the holes, and we can turn our leather over. And now with our pliers, what we need to do is turn these prongs towards each other, not outwards, because over time the fittings will wiggle and they'll work their way off the leather. So you want to fold them towards each other. We need to press down as we're doing it really hard. I'm standing up to add my body weight to the movement that we're going to do with these pliers. If you're sitting down, it's hard to get enough pressure. So working on a table or a cutting board, I'm working on my workshop table today. And what we need to do is we're holding the pliers like this, so that we're using the long edge of the pliers, not the width, but the longer edge. And we want at a right angle to hold the pliers against each prong at a right angle, and we want to fold. So we want to hold like that, be pushing down and fold over. So let me demonstrate that, and I'll repeat it a few times. So using the longer edge of the pliers, I am adding a bit of pressure downwards with my finger, and then I am folding at a right angle. You don't want to do this at a weird angle because the prongs will just curl over and you won't grip much. You don't want them to curl over, you want them to fold over using the right angle of the pliers. So that's one side done. I can turn it over to do the other side, pushing down more than you would imagine. And then we can now also do the other one. So let's zoom in on this one for a closer look. So I'm holding the pliers at a right angle to this prong. I am pushing down, quite heavily with my body weight, and then I am folding and pushing down quite hard. The reason I do it this way is because you get a tight grip. You might wiggle slightly, but it's a really tight grip and it's never going to come out. This one's wiggling a little bit, but not too much. But what you can do, even if it's wiggling a little bit, that'll be totally fine. But you can, with your pliers, just grip the edge of the prong and lift it up again. If it feels very loose, use your pliers. You can even, if you've got a bit bent, you can squash them flat again. And you can try it again. Maybe you need to squish this a bit closer together. You can pop it back on. You can put your prong back through. And you can do it again, following the process. Pushing down as hard as you can, because the harder you push, the more secure it's going to be. And these bags are designed to last a lifetime, so we don't want you to have any problems. So both of those are really firm now. They're never going anywhere. They're never going to come off. So now we've done one side of our hardware, we can now do the other side, which is this part of the bag, and these two holes and these two holes. We'll repeat the same process for both. So we'd set these parts aside, which is the other side of our locks, and two pieces that will go on the back. So your lock should go this way around, with the round part pointing down the leather and the flat part closer to the edge. So this way, not this way. It will still work if you want to put them in this way. It's just the flap is going to be pulled down a bit more because this is a bit further away. So it means the flap would lock a bit further down and it would make the bag a bit tight. So do add them to this side, this way round, and then we can fold or turn over the leather to add the back. So you'll notice the prongs are sticking out here. So all you need to do is to add your backs to the prongs like so, and just do one at a time, but just to show you where you go. This can be a bit tricky now because you actually have a bar in the way, so it's hard for this to lay flat. But what you can do is you can hold the bar over the edge of a table. So I'll use this box just to demonstrate. If this was the edge of a table, you could hold it over to keep working flat and accurately. And you'd follow the same steps as before. Fold at a right angle, and the same on this side. Run your fingers over. If you feel any kind of sharp bits that may catch onto a scarf or the contents of your bag, just try and push them down out of the way. So that's one done. It's really firm, it's not wiggling, it's going to be secure and strong for many, 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 many years. We can now pop our next one in. again, holding it over the edge of a table or a box or a chopping board. We have lots of useful things at home sometimes we don't often realise. So a wooden chopping board or a marble block, anything like that that you might have in the kitchen. Sometimes better than using a table because you don't want to scratch your table. So folding those over, checking the spikes and just pushing them over slightly. So that is our hardware. Now we can lock it. Just to explain the next part of the bag and what order we are going to make this in. So I'll just move my box out of the way. So we can kind of see the shape now. We can see we have these two side parts. This is the back. This is the front that the locks are on. And what we want to do is on the back, on this side, they fold over first. And I'd recommend just making a little crease, just folding them over, almost as if we're making a box, as it can just help if we pre-fold some of the parts with the warmth of our hands to work the leather. This leather is very high quality, it's very firm and robust, so if we pre-fold some of the parts, and even these little tabs, if we fold them over like so, as if we were making a box, it's just going to resist us a little bit less when you're constructing your bag. So I've folded over the back parts and the little tab. This tab actually slots inside. So that's the first fold we need to make, with the tab sliding inside. Those two holes correspond with them, and we'll attach them later on, but not now. So those two holes slide under to be attached later. So the back part folds over and the front folds over the back like so. So that is the construction, this one piece construction using zero waste style pattern cutting, and that's how we want to work with this product. So it's the same on both sides, but that's the construction and the folds that we need to be aware of. Just get your Chicago screws now, the finished side, which is all these lovely chrome polished or brass, depending on what option you've gone for, and just have them to one side, and also the other side of them screws. In your parcel you will also have a small pot, a screwdriver, and you'll also have some cocktail sticks, which we're going to use now with the screws. So you will need these other parts that you'll find in your box. So when we're looking at your product like this, you know, the back's folded over, the tab's gone inside, and the front is over all those parts. The first screw that we need to do on both sides is this one and this one. You need to do this bag in a particular order so you don't get trapped. So now that I've identified those and I understand that's folding inside, I'm just going to undo the lock so we can see more clearly. So these are the points that we're working on, and these points are going to be attached to these points. So this point and that point, this screw needs to go through there. So because I've already bent this out of the way, it's going to happen quite naturally. It looks wrong to begin with, but that's what you need to do. And if you turn it over, you can see the screw is here. So what I do is I'll open up my little pot. This just contains wood glue. The reason why I use wood glue is because I just pop a small amount inside the screw, not on the leather, but inside the screw. I use wood glue because thread locker for metal has solvents inside, and if you get it on the surface of the leather, it stains it instantly. We use wood glue a lot in the leather trade because when it dries and the screw is closed, the screw is never going to come loose. So again, we have a little bit of wood glue in there now. I can pop some in the other one. And just to recap, I'm heading towards this hole. So I'm folding that inside. That screw is going over to there. And I just need to attach that now on the other side. I'll just do this by hand for now. We can tighten it later with the screwdriver, but I wouldn't tighten it now. I would just keep it secure. We can do the same on the other side. So we can move that over to there. Pop our screw through both holes. I can feel it catching on the other side. And then by hand, just wind your screw on temporarily. I don't want it to be too tight at this stage because now I want to pivot the whole side closed, and we're going to screw this one to that one. So this one is going to there, and we're starting to create our satchel shape. So now I need a little bit of glue in this screw. Pop it on that corner. And the other side. Do each side evenly so we don't get trapped later on. So we're working on this one and that one. If it falls out, don't worry, we can pop it back in. So now we're going to pivot to there, and then we can put our screw in by hand on this side, and then we can close the other side. So doing each side at the same time. This leather can be quite hard to see inside because it's black. You can use a torch on your phone to see inside, which can help. So you'll notice you should be able to see through the holes on the flaps on the inside and correspond with the holes on here. So now that we have attached our first two screws, do go ahead and tighten them up with your screwdriver included in your kit. You might have another screwdriver at home that you prefer to use. If you don't have one, just use the one inside your kit. They're quite useful, these mini screwdrivers, for hard to reach places. So just tighten them up as far as they will go, because later on it'll be more difficult to reach. So the next stage is working on these holes in the bottom, and we do it from this side. So again, for each side we'll have 2 screws. Just pop them in to the base. Like so. Push that leather part over so to make sure you can see the screw. The holes are designed to line up quite accurately, but sometimes you might just need to wiggle or jiggle it about so they line up. And again, wind them on by hand. Wind them on by hand. Work on the other side. The same here, just wiggling the leather so everything lines up. Popping your screws on by hand for now, just to get the thread connected. Now we can tighten all those screws up on the inside, nice and secure, so we're not going to have any gaps on the front or any raised screws because they're not tight enough. So just work on tightening up both those sides. And there you go. Now you'll notice all these holes correspond to each other, and the same on this side. I'm going to work very quickly to show you that. You might just want to pause the video as I go, but I'm going to put all these in really quickly, often starting from this row and then doing the row on the outside because it's a bit easier if you get a bit stuck. So I'll do this one, that one, this one, that one, this one and that one. Always doing the outside ones last. And the same on this side. You can do them in any order. So yeah, so you might be able to find your own way with this one, but I'm just going to do it the way that's comfortable for me. You might find a different way. If you do get glue on the leather, don't worry, just wipe it off. You can do that with a damp cloth. This glue is optional. You don't have to use it. It's just an optional extra in your kit, which would stop the screws from ever coming out in the future. So it means you don't need to worry about trying to find more hardware if something's come loose or you've knocked your bag against something. So we're just lining those up now to these holes on the inside, and then working our way up . Again, I'm just doing them by hand. I'm up to this one now. I'm just doing them by hand, and then I'll tighten them up later. So they're in. You don't have to work as quick as me. Normally in a workshop, this bag is about an hour and 45 minutes, but I'm working super fast. You can take your time or do it over stages, or 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there. It's up to you. If your hands get sore, you can have a tea break and just going for it. So same again, I'm popping the glue in and putting the screw through. And then working my way up the inside by hand for now, just to make sure everything's in the right place. Last one on this side, then I can move over to the other side. Now I can tighten all those up. Make sure they're all nice and tight so you don't have any loose parts to your bag. And all that glue is going to go around the thread and clog up the thread so you'll never unwind once the dry. It normally takes about 30 minutes inside the screw for it to dry, close, then you won't be able to get them off. You'd have to get these off with bolt cutters, so just make sure you're doing everything in the right place. So that's one side complete. Now we're working on the other side. So same again, I'm going to work on the inside edge first, away from this edge, just because I find it easier to line them up that way. I don't get trapped. And then just work on them one by one. It can be a little bit hard to see sometimes, so you might want to open things out so you can see. Which is why I start on this inner row, because I can open it out and I can see how to line things up better. So again, I'm just doing it by hand to begin with, so they're not fully rotated, just as far as I can do it with my fingers. This row's done. I can now work on the outside row. Do pause the video if you need to, or fast forward if that makes sense. Then I can work on this outer edge, and everything's lining up much easier by doing it this way. Sometimes I do things by feel more than sight because I'm used to these techniques. If it's your first bag, it'll take you a bit longer to get used to this type of hardware. But now the last one's in, and I can tighten all those 6 screws that finish off these side panels. And you'll see now you've created this lovely classic box shape. The flap has a bit of a graded width to it because it will actually hug the edge of that chest-like shape, which is from vintage camera bags that have that classic shape. So this side was inspired by a vintage camera bag that was in an antique store, and I really liked that shape for a traditional satchel, because you get a really nice curve like a chest or a rounded edge rather than just being square. So it gives you a really nice edge and protects everything inside from rain or dust. So we now have our box shape in leather, all secure. We have the base done. The next stage is the straps, but we'll work on those separately now, and we will use your last components, which is your roller buckle, which has a roller on one side and a pin dangling down on the other, and your keeper, which is flat on the back side, and the finished side we want to see is rounded. So let's move on to making a classic strap and buckle. We will get your leather straps now. One of them is much longer than the other one, and it's the short one that we need to work on. We can ignore the longer one for now. We just need the shorter one, and we'll ignore these two holes. We're just focusing on the dot, dot, dash, dot, dot. This is what's going to fold over and make our buckle, and this dash is where the pin of the buckle will be able to move. So we have to get this on the right way. So with our leather on the right side, so you can see the racing green colour, our leather on the right side. We'll work in here, and we need to get our pin, but if you let the pin dangle down, you'll notice that it naturally points one way. It's got a bend in the bottom of the pin which points in one direction. So we want it to point towards the strap. So as the pin is pointing towards the strap, we want to feed the leather under the roller, inside the buckle, over the first hole, over the second hole, but then we push the pin up and through the dash. So it sits like this. That is the correct way for this stage. We can put the buckle to the middle of that dash, then we can fold it over, and we can see that those two holes correspond with each other for screws. We just want to put a screw inside the first hole closest to the buckle. Let's have a little dab of glue again. There, we just do this one for now, don't do the other one. We can securely fasten